Well, thank you very much, Speaker Justine Muturi, for joining us for this interview on NTV. And we want to delve right into it. Are you contented with the way Parliament is working right now, especially the committees?
Thank you very much for this opportunity for me to say something about the operations of the House in the 12th Parliament. To begin with, it's fair to appreciate that this 12th Parliament started off on a very shaky ground. As you'd recall, there were some members who were making technical appearances. It took a very long time to even constitute committees of the House, including the crucial House Business Committee. So, to some extent, one would say, because of the time that was wasted between that 1st of August and early this year, when finally the committees agreed to sit in place, there was quite some, what one would call underperformance. But once the committees were put in place and the membership therein were inducted, I must say, I have seen many members who have taken up their responsibilities in committees very seriously.
Delving deeper into this question about committees, and the most recent of them all is the Joint Committee of Trade and Agriculture that had come together to investigate this issue about sugar. You have defended committees and said that they are doing their job and probably doing it very well. But there is this aspect whereby you actually even pointed out that there are some committees that are becoming too friendly to witnesses. With regards to this committee, there have been accusations and counter-accusations that have run forth about them engaging too much with witnesses that are coming there. In your own words, you said they are hugging and kissing witnesses. What do you make of this?
Well, that is said by way of trying to caution members that yes, you are supposed to engage the public and indeed any stakeholders. Articles 73 and 75 of the Constitution on leadership and integrity require that a state officer conducts himself, whether in public or in company with others, in a manner that carries dignity and honor to the office, and must at all times avoid any situations that their behavior would be motivated by anything else other than the desire to do public good. So personal interests must at all times be disclosed where they exist. So the caution that I've issued in the past is to just remind members that, please, yes, you are not supposed to be too cozy with witnesses, and particularly most of people whom you have invited to give you information that you think may be necessary for you to get to the bottom of some matter that you may be before you.
Some members of Parliament are actually agents of these witnesses who are coming to these committees, in the form of some are either coming to protect the witness against some of these members who you are saying are becoming hostile to the witnesses, or actually some of them are even coming to these committees to settle political scores. As the head of Parliament and your team, how are you able to balance this and make sure that probably there is another watchdog that is watching over these members of Parliament as they do their legislative work at the committees?
The watchdog which watches over all this conduct is the committee I chair, referred to as the powers and privileges. But that committee also has to be moved, or if it observes a behavior that may appear to have an impact, negative impact, on the privileges of members and witnesses. Of course, I am not at this point able to disclose what it is that that committee may be doing, because even that committee itself, when it sits, it listens to evidence. And at the end of the day, it tables its report of its findings to the plenary. It's up to the plenary now to decide whether to agree with the committee or not to agree with the committee, or take whatever other decision it may deem necessary in the circumstances of each case.
Are there cases that your committee, as the powers and privileges, is pursuing at this particular point with regards to members of parliament? And also, to expand on that, also there are some interests that are being portrayed by members of parliament, including some who are in the leadership that have been accused of having specific interest in matters that are being investigated here in parliament, and more specifically the sugar matter that was before the joint committee.
Yes, we have some cases that we are dealing with at Powers and Privileges Committee, but I may not wish to diverge. I'm sure most of them are matters that the media is quite alive to.
The integrity question in parliament and within the parliament precinct, is it a concern to you as the Speaker and the head of Parliament?
Absolutely. It is for that reason that I have been constantly cautioning members, because one misbehavior by one member affects the entire, the entire image of the institution of Parliament. And it's for that reason that I have been regularly cautioning members that don't do this, don't do this. Some of it is actually not just in the standing order. Some of it is in the Constitution, Chapter 6. Some of it is also contained in Article 10 on the national values. And then, again, on principles of public service.
There has been a renewed vigor at the national and county level to fight the war on corruption. And one of the places that people will run to is Parliament through its watchdog committees. As the leadership of Parliament, what renewed vigor have you put across through the watchdog committees and those matters that they are discussing, be it probably at the national level where you head at this particular time?
We have already put mechanisms to address the internal operations of the institution of Parliament. At the level of committees, you see, the Speaker is not just a prefect. And unless specific issues are raised, you cannot go on a wild goose chase. We cannot say that a committee should not meet this. And let me just give some example. I have seen in recent weeks, in fact, I think I've received a letter of complaint from some Kenyan that a particular committee held meetings with a body that they oversight. And I said, oh, so is this, what was wrong with that? And I thought very quickly, we hold meetings, even as Parliament, with the bodies like the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, KEPSA. In fact, we are soon going to have some retreat with them. Are they going to corrupt members? The executive, through the Presidential Roundtable, holds meetings with the Kenya Private Sector Alliance. At the National Assembly, specifically, I do hold meetings with the Kenya Parliamentary Journalists Association and many other journalists. I do retreats and seminars and workshops with the Kenya Editors Guild. Do we hold those meetings so as to corrupt the media?
Has the handshake in any way changed the way Parliament is working as of now?
To the extent that there are some members who would never hear anything about, you say government, some members who would say that we don't recognize the government. To that extent, I think the handshake has helped Parliament to function a little more smoothly. But remember, criticism of government decisions and policies continues to happen and those criticisms come from both sides of either the Jubilee or the NASA brigade. It is not limited only to the opposition or the minority side.
In Parliament, and now this is your second term as Speaker, and one of the reasons, one of the things that has come out is probably we are in a new dispensation. Has this in any way helped in how Parliament works and the country as a whole, or should we go back to what we had, the parliamentary system?
I have an experience of both systems. I think it helped a great deal when we had ministers sitting in the plenary of the House. A lot of the concerns that or issues that members raise sometimes in the old system would be addressed because, immediately, because members are, they are with the ministers and their assistants, in the House all the time. Now, the current system has this weakness that majority of the cabinet secretaries are not people who have gone through the processes of vote hunting. So sometimes they may not quite understand the uniqueness that members sometimes may approach them with regard to issues of concern to their constituents. But I think over the years I've seen now developing a system where even cabinet secretaries are feeling now much freer to appear before committees.
To deal conclusively with this issue about rent seeking from members of parliament?
Well, I've heard about rumors about rent seeking, but you see, I have to be very careful. If particular instances of rent seeking were to be reported, remember they would most likely appear before Powers and Privileges Committee. Although the Act provides that whatever discipline, remember ours will be dealing with the discipline matters, privileges. Whatever action we may take here does not preclude any other action that any other bodies who enforce integrity issues from taking action against specific members, if they have evidence. But I've only had rumors that this happened, but there's nobody who has ever come specifically to come and give evidence that or lodge a complaint that I have been approached.
What is your take on this demand by governors that they should be exempted from prosecution for the time that they are in office?
I think this is most outrageous. I never expected, never thought that governors would stoop so low as to now begin making those kind of statements. They are responsible for overseeing application of state resources, taxpayers' money. And if, just like I am here in Parliament, if state resources under my care are misapplied or stolen, I should be called upon to answer. Or whoever is responsible should be called upon to explain.
Well, Speaker Justin Muturi, thank you very much for giving us time and for that very good interview. Well, back to you, studio. Thank you very much. Asante.